Hey guys, it's the Will coming at you with my Exosister deck profile for the month of July 2024. Like always, before we get started with the video, if you guys just care about the deck image or the deck itself, there's always going to be a deck image down in the description below. All I ask is to leave a like and a comment. If you care about some of my card choices, why I went with certain cards and whatnot, please watch the entire video and maybe your questions answered. If not, please leave a comment. I'll try to get my best to get to it. So let's get right to it. I've been having some fun with this deck. I'm trying my best to stay away from the TCG at the moment because it's a little boring, but this is a fun, like, solid little rogue pick, and I think it's a good investment because this is the type of deck that will get support in the future because it just needs it. Let's start off with 3 Exosister Martha. So Martha is actually the main monster of the main deck. So this card states that you can reveal it in your hand to special summon an Exosister from your deck, being Ellis, and then special summon this card. So the whole entire deck is basically a rank 4 toolbox deck using the Exosister cards. And then all the Exosister main deck monsters have the same effect, that if a monster, or I'm sorry, not a monster, if a card is moved from any graveyard, you can immediately after that resolves, you can XYZ using that monster you control as an XYZ material. So it's pretty good. And then the XYZ materials kind of have effects that shut off graveyard effects and stuff like that. So in this format, it's really not that bad. The thing is that this deck is just very susceptible to stuff, and it's just very, delicate. It's a very delicate deck, so that's really all I can say about that. So Martha special summons out Ellis. Ellis is the other Exosister monster we run out of 3 of. It basically states that if you control an Exosister monster, you can special summon this card from your hand, and then if you control a Exosister Stella, being her sister, you can gain 800 life points. Honestly, that effect doesn't matter. The main thing you really want to do is try to get 2 bodies on the board, so then you can go into your rank 4 Exosister deck. Extra deck, because that's kind of where the deck shines. So 3 Ellis, this is basically for the Martha target, and I am opting to run the 3 Stella. Stella corresponds with Ellis, Ellis corresponds with Stella. Stella states that during your main phase, you can special summon 1 Exosister monster from your hand, and then if you control an Ellis, you can gain 800 life points. These are the only Exosister monsters that I'm choosing to run. I'm trying to keep this deck as competitive as possible. I am playing it on Master Duel and I'm having a blast. I took it to locals for 1 locals and I did go, 2-2. So it really wasn't that bad. But Stella, I think, is like the better of the Exosister cards, because Irene, which basically lets you draw a card and then put another card back at the bottom of the deck, and then Sophia is also not that very good. I know people run it for the Vadis target, but remember that Stella and Ellis are also Vadis targets, and you can also just opt to not run Vadis at all, which we'll get to in a few. So that's it for the Exosister monsters. We're running 9. For the entire Exosister package, the whole point as to why this deck is actually kind of playable is because it has so much room for different cards and stuff, hand traps, board breakers, etc., etc. We have so much room. So we're running 3 Exosister packs. This deck is extremely affordable, by the way. I forgot to mention that they all got reprinted, or the majority of them got reprinted in the Rarity Collection too, making the deck even more affordable than it was. And like I said, if you guys want to have kind of like a long-term investment deck, knowing that the deck's going to get support, it's going to be Exosister for sure. It's going to be, because we're still missing some very key cards like, Martha's corresponding Exosister and stuff like that. Anyways, I digress. Exosister Packs is a quick play spell card. It's basically a Rhoda for the entire archetype. During the main phase, you can pay 800 life points to add any Exosister card. So this is basically another Martha, which is the main card you kind of want to go to. If you already have Martha and it resolves, well, then you can go for any of the traps or any of the spells. And then it states that if you added a monster by this effect and you control the other Exosister monster mentioned in that monster, you can special summon it. So it's not that bad. I barely ever use that effect. I usually just use it to either search out my traps or search out my Martha. But Pax is pretty good. For the rest of the Exosister cards or the Exosister package, we're running 2 Returnia and 1 Vadis. So let's get into this. So Returnia is probably the best trap card that you have. So it has 2 effects. If all monsters you control are Exosister monsters, minimum 1, You can pay 800 life points. That's kind of like the whole gimmick of the deck. You pay and then you gain. Okay, and you target one card your opponent controls or in their graveyard, banish it. Then you can apply one of the following effects if you did that. The first effect being immediately after this card resolves, you can XYZ summon one Exosister monster you control, which is that's kind of part of the main combo, right? You XYZ into Magnifica, and Magnifica is another target banish, not target banish, a non-targeting banish, right? Or you have another one is if you XYZ summon this turn, you can banish one card your opponent controls, non-targeting. So you get, this is basically a 2-card banish, one targeting, one non-targeting. It's pretty disgusting. This card is nuts. I see some people run it at 1. By all means, you can. It is extremely searchable, but just drawing this card, for me, I don't mind it. I've never bricked on it because this deck is extremely consistent because of all the non-engine it can run. I usually always get to Returnia, but again, I'd rather draw it and then search out some of my key pieces or some of my other follow-up pieces. Okay, so 2 Returnia for me has been working fantastic. This deck has been working great for me. It's really consistent. And then the 1 Vadis. If anything, you guys can cut the Vadis. It rarely ever comes up, but it does come up. And when it comes up, it's pretty gross. So what Vadis states is that you can pay 800 life points, choose 1 Exosister monster from your deck, then take one other Exosister monster from your deck that is mentioned on that monster, special summon both of them, but shuffle both of them into the deck during the end phase. Also, for the rest of this turn, you cannot special summon from your extra deck. So the whole play with Vadis is the fact that it gets you 2 Exosister monsters on board if your opponent is going to like move a card from the graveyard, being, let's just say, a Flamberge, right? Or a Poplar that got sent to the graveyard. Well, chain link 1 Poplar in the graveyard, right? And then you can chain link 2 Vadis, and then special summon out your 2 Exosister monsters, usually being Stella and Elise, right? And then since Poplar got moved from the graveyard, you can overlay using both of your Exosister monsters. It's a really, really good combo, and it's just really good. This is it for the Exosister package. I don't think you need to run more. I don't think you need to run less. The other Exosisters are kind of garbage in my opinion. So that means that the other, majority of the deck, I don't know, 40 cards. The deck is on a 40, so maybe 20 cards is non-engine, right? Well, I don't really consider it non-engine, but let's go right to it. Let's go run 3 Aratama. So Aratama, remember that this is basically a rank 4 toolbox. This Aratama is a 1-card full combo. This basically gets you to your Martha. This gets you into your Speller Trap, you know? So basically, on normal summon lets you add any spirits, and that is going to be the 3 Sakitama. So just a quick word of advice. Yes, I do know that some people run 2 and 2, maybe run 3 and 2. You know, whatever you want to run it, whatever number you feel comfortable in. But remember that this deck does nothing if you cannot get into a rank 4. So I want it to be as consistent as humanly possible. That's why I decided to run 3 and 3. You can have a debate that maybe you can run 2 and 2 and then add 2 non-engine cards, like maybe more hand traps, board breakers, whatever you want. I just decided to go into the 3 and 3, and it's been working just fine. I've never once bricked on them. Sakitama is actually the better one of the 2 spirits because for you to use Martha's effect, you must control either no monsters or you can only control Exosister monsters. So if you normal summon Aratama, and they Veiler or Imperm you, your turn is very awkward in that case because you have to normal summon the Martha or normal summon an Exosister to go into another Exosister. It's just really awkward. So that's why I think that Sakitama is probably the better of the spirits. So if you guys want to cut one, I would say cut the Aratama to 2 and then keep the Sakitama at 3 because Sakitama reveals itself in the hand. So once you do your whole Martha shenanigans, then you can reveal the Sakitama. And kind of go and keep playing and going for your combo. So I think Sakitama is the better of the 3, but so far I don't see myself changing the 3-3 ratio. It's really consistent and I need to get to my extra deck. For the hand traps, so the deck can either run a lot of hand traps or board breakers. You have a lot of non-engine here, right? So for the hand traps, obviously this is a shifter deck. You do not need the graveyard in this deck. So 3-dimensional shifter. Okay, I never found that this deck ever needed the graveyard. It does kind of hinder you sometimes because if you, let's just say you open up a pretty bad hand, your best bet is probably normal summon an Exosister and pray that your opponent doesn't read the card and then they go into the graveyard. So Shifter kind of hinders that, but Shifter is just too great of a card not to run, especially if it does not get hurt by it. This deck does not get hurt by Shifter. 3 Ash, of course, it's, Ash has been in the format for, my God, that probably since its printing. So 3 Ash, that makes it 6. 2 Moonlit Chills. I think Moonlit Chill is really good just because it works under Shifter. Doesn't discard to the graveyard. I was also trying to fit in the 2 DD Crows. I think DD Crows is really, really good in this deck because, again, if it gets to the point where you open up one Exosister and a DD Crow, where you can just normal summon the Exosister and then just DD Crow whatever it goes into their graveyard and then rank up through there and probably stop their turn. But it conflicts with Shifter, obviously. And not only that, I don't know. I don't really want it to play DD Crow, and I think it did just fine for me, to be completely honest with you. You can run more of a hand trap lineup. I'm also running obviously the 3 Imperm, of course, so it's a fairly decent hand trap lineup. We're running the 3 Shifter, 3 Ash, 3 Imperm, and then the 2 Mourner. By all means, you can run more and maybe run like a cross out build. The reason why I didn't opt to do that is because I don't think Nibiru right now is really in the meta. So this deck loses hard to Nibiru. So the whole play is to run cross out with like 1 Nibiru, and that way you're safe from Nibiru. But I also just did not want to run those hand traps with Shifter and then cross out Designator. I just didn't want to. By all means you can. It got a reprint, so whatever works for you. Again, for more consistency, I think the deck is extremely consistent. I have not bricked once with this deck. All right, in the games that I've played, 3 Pot of Prosperity, this is fantastic. It does not hurt you at all. I mean, it just lets you dig. So you have packs, you have 3 copies of Martha, 3 copies of packs, 3 copies of Pot of Prosperity, you have 3 Aritamas, 3 Sakitama. You're going to be going into your extra deck. So, and then you're going to be seeing your plays. The one Called by the Grave, this is obviously, because you are susceptible to Ash and Valor and Mourner and stuff like that. I think Called by is just really good. Not only that, it moves a card from the graveyard, so you can rank up if need be. I opted to run a small board breaker package because this deck does struggle going second, even if you were to go with a lot of hand traps, because you can't really play Nibiru because you have to have an empty board for Martha or just control Exosister monsters. So Nibiru kind of hinders you. So I opted to run kind of a semi-board breaker build. We're running the 2 Dark Ruler No More. This was MVP for me at my locals. Even though I went 2-2, the games that I saw this, I won, even going second. This was so good. And of course, my favorite trap card in the game, the 2 Evenly Matched. Very little to say about this. I really like this ratio. I think it is a great ratio, and I honestly wouldn't change much of anything, to be completely honest, unless we were getting some like random support, but highly doubt that. For the extra deck, 15 extra deck, we are running 3 of the Exosister Magnifica. This is probably the main reason why you would want to run this deck. Either that or you're just like I don't know, a weird waifu archetype, which by the way I am. Love Sky Striker and Exosisters. But Magnifica essentially is the main boss monster of the deck. What this XYZ card allows you to do is that it requires 2 rank 4 XYZ Exosister XYZ monsters. So more of the time, like I said, 1 Aratama is full combo. You Aratama into Sakitama, you XYZ into oh my goodness, you XYZ into Caspatel. Caspatel lets you search Martha. Martha reveal itself. Special summon Elise, go into another rank 4, and then that way you can go into Magnifica. Magnifica essentially states that if your opponent were to activate a card effect, you can detach 1 card from this XYZ card, and then the card that's under it, you overlay it using this card as an XYZ material. It also has an effect that you can, once per turn, quick effect, non-target, banish a card your opponent controls. So if you guys are taking some advice, I highly suggest the way you play this card is that your opponent activates a card, right? You activate its effect to target, you don't target, but to banish 1 card your opponent controls that does not target, it does not require a detach. And then since your opponent activated a card effect, you can detach to essentially rank up or rank down in this case. Actually, I said that backwards. First of all, since your opponent activated a card effect, you detach, rank down the XYZ monster that you choose, and then you can quick effect chain non-target banish a card. My bad on that one. It's been a long day. Not only that, this also allows you to attack twice, so it allows for OTKs. This deck actually OTKs quite well, and 2800 attack is pretty beefy. 2800 attack, 2800 defense. This card is just nuts. I am running 3. Some people run 2, and that is because there was a couple of situations where I didn't need 3. So I'd rather play it safe than sorry. Probably the second best XYZ card in the extra deck. 3 Michaelis or Michaelis, whatever. So essentially this requires 2 level 4 monsters. Again, this entire deck is basically toolbox. That's why you can use Aratama and Sakitama. Okay. It cannot be destroyed by battle by a monster that was special summoned from the graveyard. Okay. And then you can only use each effect of this card once per turn. If you control an XYZ, if you control this card that was XYZ summoned by using an Exosister monster, you can quick effect target 1 card your opponent controls, banish it. So this one is a target banish, and then it has another effect that you can detach 1 material from this card, add 1 Exosister spell or trap card from your hand. So this can add you your Pax, this can add you your Vadis, this can add you your Returnia. It's part of your turn 1 combo. Okay. Not only that, usually when you have this kind of game state, right? So you use its effect, detach the second material, and you can quick effect banish 1 card your opponent controls, non-targeting, and then you bring out Michaelis. And now Michaelis effects, since it's what's XYZ summoned this turn, you can now have the effect that you can quick effect target banish another card. So you have up to 4 banishes, 2 of them being non-target and then 2 of them being targeted. It is really insane. Okay, so Michaelis, obviously it's a 3 of. 2 Caspatel. Caspatel is the Rhoda. It's also part of your first turn combo. So you either go Caspatel first or Michaelis first, whichever one that you really need. Caspatel states that obviously it cannot be destroyed by battle with a special summon monster from the graveyard. Okay. But it states that if this XYZ summon card using Exosister monsters as a material, neither player can special summon monsters from the graveyard for the rest of this turn. So it's basically a Necro Valley. You can't special summon monsters from the graveyard. It also has an effect that you can detach 1 material from this card, add 1 Exosister monster from your deck to your hand. Okay, so this one's the Rhoda. Michaelis is the spell and trap card searcher. So depending on the game state, again, you're more than likely going to have something like this, right? A Magnifico with these 2. Depending on what you want to do with the turn, if you want to have another banish, then you would detach the Caspatel and then special summon Michaelis on top of the Magnifica. Or if you want to shut down the graveyard, well, you can detach the Michaelis and special summon out the Caspatel. And you can kind of play it by ear through there. This deck has a lot of very good options to go into, so keep that in mind. For the rest of the extra deck, we're playing 2 Exosister Asophiel, excuse me. Again, it has that standard effect, but this one states that if this card's XYZ summoned using an Exosister monster as a material, the turn that it was XYZ summoned, neither player can activate cards in the graveyard this turn. So this is almost an Abyss Dweller effect. So this is really good to shut down, obviously, anything in the graveyard. And then it also has another effect that you can detach 1 material from this card to target 1 monster your opponent controls and return it to the hand. I rarely ever use that, but it could come up. I usually use the whole shutting down from the graveyard effect. We're running the 1 Jabreen. Jabreen states that I barely go into this. This is more of an OTK enabler, but it states that quick effect, you can target 1 effect monster your opponent controls and negate its effects. That's its quick effect, and then it has the effect that you can detach 1 material from this card for the rest of this turn. All XYZ monsters you control gain 800 attack. I rarely go into her, to be completely honest with you. So yeah, but she's good to have as a 1 of. And for the rest of the toolbox, we're running 1 Exciton Knight, 1 Baguska. I went into this one a lot more than I'd like to admit. The 1 Abyss Dweller from our Graveyard Hate, and of course the 1 Tornado Dragon. You can by all means run Zeus, you can run Typhon, you can run SP Little Knight, whatever you want. I just did not want to remove them from my other decks. So yeah. And most of the times you're locked into like Exosister monsters anyway, so yeah. For the side deck, like I said, this deck I did take to locals. I did go 2 and 2. I went to locals once with it, but I really liked the way it turned out. So I'll just show you guys the side deck. By all means, this isn't like definitive, and I think I'm missing like 3 cards, but whatever. The 3 Solemn Judgment, this deck loses to evenly matched Lightning Storm and stuff like that, so please keep that in mind. 3 deck lockdowns, This card's underrated. If your deck can run it in the side, I highly recommend running it. This card's really good. Dimensional Barrier. It's just a nightmare to deal with. I think this card deserves a ban. And obviously the 3 Book of Eclipse for more board breakers and stuff like that. So that is it for the deck, ladies and gentlemen. If you guys like it, please leave a like, rate, comment, and subscribe. And if you have any questions, just leave a comment. I'll try my best to answer it. Anyways, this has been Maweo. Catch you guys later.